that she wanted to give time for this today, and planning today or yesterday, the day before, and thinking through what we wanted it to look like felt so much easier this year than it did last year. You know, there were some bumps, there were some challenges, but we did so much last year. And yeah, we asked HCAM to be here because you asked at the end of last year. This is the one of the slides that was in our final presentation last year, and it was a conversation that we had, and I took notes, thinking about the work we did this year. What are you excited to get started with in August and September? What do you need to feel successful in doing this? And one of the things that came up in meetings over and over again was more work with small group instruction. And I know that there was sort of like this uncomfortable feeling about, we've been doing guided reading for many years. What should that look like? Where are we going to go with that? So I thought what a great way for us to be able to start is to kind of focus on our tier 1 small group instruction, so that, you know, going into your planning, going into the year, you're feeling more comfortable. Again, I'll say it over and over again. I have a lovely slide at the end that talks about it. Sustainable change takes 3 to 5 years. I don't expect, Lauren doesn't expect, anybody else at central office does not expect that we're going to walk into a classroom in October and see all of these pieces running the way that they're going to look at the end of the year or next year or the year after, right? There's change and growth that's happening. So we're going to start with this. There's going to be support. There's going to be lots of conversations. This is just kind of the starting point, right? Yeah.
Do you want me to stay up here because the office?
If you don't mind, because something happened to my clicker. It's not working really well. So small group instruction, small group tier 1. Remember, small group instruction at Marathon. Just nod your head. As we go through this, remember, we're going to be curious, not judgmental, right? We're not expecting change the first week of school, the first month of school. This was a slide we added at the end of last year, because there are some of you, I don't think there's anybody coming in here that falls in that first box, but certainly some know a little and want to know more. Some know a good amount but want to continue to build skills. And some of you really already feel very comfortable with what your small group instruction looks like. Where do you feel like you are, so that, you know, we're learning from the people around us, and we're thinking about, if I feel like if this is an area that I'm really comfortable with, how can I share that information, knowledge, thought with my teammates, with the people that are sitting at the table with me. So just take a moment to kind of think about where you are, knowing as we go through this, you might bounce, right? You might not feel like you're solidly in this place for the whole time, but just what's the lens that you're going to approach this with today? Anybody want to share? If you don't, that's okay. Good? Good? How should I use this slide? So, you know, I have to show these slides, right? You knew, right? Sorry. So we've got our MTSS definition here, but I couldn't just show just this slide as we showed it last year, because there's all of these sticky notes were sticky notes from your knowledge that you generated last year, right? At the end of the year, you were the ones that talked about what MTSS is, right? And we know it's a tiered system that encompasses curriculum, instruction, assessment, personnel, master schedules, and resources that ensures all of our students have equitable access every day, right? That's the big definition that comes out of the Department of Ed. But then what does that look like here in Hopkinton? And these are the pieces. MTSS, multi-tiered system of support. Meeting students where they are, and getting what they need. Differentiation, it's going through the system. MTSS, the way students are accessing the curriculum, whole group versus small group, instruction and data-driven. MTSS, multi-tiered system of support, structure, RTI. Structure, RTI lives in, I think. All means all. Everyone's in different places. What drives RTI and best practices? Moving toward more tiered intervention. Data used to be able to determine where kids are and where they need to be going. Whole group, small group. You get the idea. But it was important to add these pieces in because this is what makes it Hopkinton, right? More specific to the work that we are doing here. So today, our focus is going to be on Tier 1 small group instruction. That's where we're really focusing on making sure what all of our students are getting in terms of that small group instruction. And we're not talking about Tier 2A where you're doing some of those routines that we learned last year. We're talking about Tier 1 small group instruction, practicing those comprehension skills. And here are our learning targets for today. Review the summer work that was done in support of Tier 1 and Tier 2A instruction, and develop a connection to the work we will continue this year. We're going to share a planning and instruction routine that supports students engaging in small group through explicit instruction and practice. And we're going to begin to develop common small group practice that supports reading fluency and comprehension through explicit instruction and practice, with focus on the skills with text that's accessible to students. And before we really dive too deeply into it, I think that we have to kind of, have that, address the elephant in the room. We know that there are challenges with our curriculum. Those are things we're continuing to have conversations about. I know we talked a lot about it last year. And I want to thank all of you for your participation in the survey that we put out last year. I so appreciated the feedback. There was really thoughtful, honest feedback that will continue to help us make the decisions that we need to make in the best interest of kids. So when we talk about Tier 1 whole group and Tier 1 small group language comprehension, that's that other side of the rope, right? We have the decoding side that has to do with phonemic awareness and phonics and fluency. And then we have the language comprehension side that has to do with comprehension skills and strategies, vocabulary, background knowledge, oral language, all of those pieces that are just as important. So you have your whole group mini lesson, right? Where you're teaching about a comprehension skill or strategy. That happens daily. Or sometimes you might say, oh, My book lasted 2 days because it was a longer book. That's okay. That still falls under that whole group, what everybody receives. Whole group interactive read aloud with skills and strategies, those two pieces kind of should be working together. And then small group practice with appropriate text. We're going to say, as we talked about last year, you do not need to meet with every single student every single day, right? With small group practice with appropriate text, you're going to meet with all students 2 days a week. This is where you're using your leveled text, okay? And this is differentiated and scaffolded. So it looks different from Tier 2A, right? Because it's not significantly different. We've just made we might have to differentiate or scaffold for different groups of students, different students with specific needs. So what it might look like is a different level of text, right? It might look like scaffolding for language or for concepts, vocabulary, based on what those students in front of you need.
Can you just quickly go over Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 1A, Tier 2A, just to make sure we're all on the same page?
Yeah, so when we talk about Tier 1 whole group instruction, right, for this part of it, this is what it is. It's our whole group mini lesson with reading comprehension skills and strategies. The whole group interactive read aloud, this is what everybody gets every day. And then small group practice 2 days a week. And then it also is going to include, and we're going to talk about it a little later, Hegarty and Foundations, what everybody gets every day. When we talk about Tier 2A, those are the places where when we look at our data, right, when we're looking at those STAR CBM assessments, and we're thinking about, we're looking at students who are not meeting that benchmark, right? They might be scoring in the yellow, they might be scoring in the red, they might be scoring in the blue. Those are students that we know need a little bit more. Not all of them need our literacy team right here, or somebody from our literacy team right here. Some of them just need a little bump, some additional of those practice routines that are happening in the classroom when you're delivering your small group instruction outside of these 2 days, right? So those other 3 days, this is where you can fit some of those routines in. Yep.
This might be a ridiculous question. I'm not even ridiculous. But if one of us is from pushing yeah, if I want to go, that's still considered Tier 1 small group.
So there should be states where the teacher's delivering some of that small group and you're delivering some of that small group class. No, and I was just going to say, like, those are things we're still working on that, you know, we talked a little bit about last year. And I'm not sure how we that is not. But those are some of the things that we talked about last year where we're going to be learning from each other and supporting each other with the scheduling piece of it. Some people are really good at being able to schedule these pieces in, and other people, there's some challenges with that. It could just be the way the schedule plays out. There's lots of different factors to it, but it's a work in progress in terms of what it might look like in one classroom as opposed to what it might look like in another classroom.
But if we're in a during time now that's not teaching it, they consider it like that.
Yeah.
Considered small group reading. It's considered Tier 1, yes.
Tier 1. And I would say, especially in our newcomer foundational classes, yes. We have, I think, developed great relationships with our classroom teachers and ESOL teachers, so they are part of that Tier 1 instruction. We've got vocabulary, we've got reinforcement. So it's all connected, but it's building upon each other. I don't know if any of the teachers who have done that want to share some things that has helped them with the whole class when we've had that, because I know we have a few in here who have worked hard for that. Maybe not yet, but maybe later. We do have some classrooms that have great systems in place with it. So it's not something that every class would have, because you're not going into every class, and the level of student need is not the same in every class, but it's been particularly helpful for our newcomer class. So thank you. Great question. Yeah. Did I click it or no? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I was like, wait, this is the same slide.
That's why I said yeah.
So again, we're gonna loop back to this so we can connect the summer work. And I think that this summer work was shared by CTLs this morning.
Grade 1, did you get into the
Yes.
Lexiles?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, perfect.
Didn't Brenda say that? Oh.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we'll share it. That's okay. So, so this small group, we're using the same books that we've always used, right? Those are good books, right? All those Fountas and Pinnell books that sit in your hallway, there's some great books. But when we think about explicit instruction and practice, and we look at the folders that align with those, there's a lot in there, right? There's not like focus on one skill. If I taught cause and effect today in my mini lesson, and then I modeled cause and effect in my interactive read aloud, I want to make sure as I'm bringing that into my tier 1 small group, I'm practicing that skill, right? That's the we do part of the I do, we do, you do, right? When we're sitting together at a table, bless you, and we're practicing applying that skill in text we can access, or text your students can access. So the summer work allowed us, thank you to everybody in this room that helped with any summer work. With this, all the books were put into a spreadsheet. A Lexile level, we talked about at the end of the year, we're going to move from using a BAS level to a Lexile level. Those levels we'll be able to get from our STAR assessment at the beginning of the year once they take it. And don't worry about that part now. We're not worrying about that part until a month from now, 2 months from now. Maybe not two. So don't worry about that part right now, okay? What we want to think about now is how I'm going to choose text that's going to be appropriate for my students to practice cause and effect that I just taught, okay? And think about this, right? Like our summer work focused on creating a document with all level text from the hall. So all those books from the hall. We're not saying not to use the books that are in the book room. Those have not been added to the document yet. So just so you know, if you want to still use those, if there are books in there that you've used, use them, but they are not, you won't find them listed in this document that we're gonna.
But they are all labeled with Lexile numbers.
Yes, yeah, they are all labeled. So the level text from the hall, we're thinking about what you're going to see on that document. First is the Lexile level. Next is the BAS level next to it, right? So that if we take away, you guys kind of have a framework, not kind of, you have a framework of what a level A is, what a level B is. We're not taking those pieces away. We just want you to start to make the connection between how does a level C equate with a Lexile, right? And then skills have been identified. So when you go into this document, and I'm looking for a book that has cause and effect, that's like the glaring skill that I'm teaching this week. You can go into this document and you can find it, right?
I think if you click it for link,
Yeah.
join,
Could you please?
please.
So see what will happen? I'm going to share out the link with you after today. What's going to happen, you'll be prompted to make a copy. Because if everybody's accessing the same document, and I'm looking for cause and effect, and somebody else is looking for main idea and details, and we're sifting through, right? We're sorting. What's going to happen? It's going to make a mess. So you'll be prompted to make a copy, so that will be yours. If you can please title it with your last name, just so things don't get too lost, just title it with your last name.
And then I would say organize it. Somewhere in your drive, after you have made the copy, you've added your last name, organize it in your system so you can go back to it when you're planning future lessons. Sometimes that's what will drive in being a little busy. Yeah.
Okay. So at the top of the document, they are all kindergarten books. As you scroll down, you'll find there's a split in there somewhere where it starts to be grade 1 books.
They go by, it goes by level.
Oh, they're all, okay, sorry. I know that we had kind of gone back and forth on how we were going to organize that. So like if it's a level G, you'll find kindergarten first, and then you'll still find level G, but then you'll find grade 1 books.
But what you'll notice is look at the genre. Sometimes, so this is where the change might factor in fiction or nonfiction. So it's a level G, but fiction or nonfiction, it's not necessarily separated by that genre.
So you've
Got the type of,
Yeah. Go ahead, you can.
so when you click on this, so you've got the level, you've got the grade, you've got the book. There it is if you wanted the book, fiction, nonfiction. This one's narrative. The skill is drawing conclusions. Another skill is retell, summarize. Here are some guiding questions, and there's another guiding question. So that's a great resource when you're working with small groups, especially when you know someone has a skill deficit and you're trying to really target and hone in on it. So the summer work for this, thank you people for working on this. This is a tremendous resource for us.
And you'll notice there might be some that you might find some empty rows. There are so many hours for summer work.
Yep.
So there might be some that are not quite finished yet, but it's still a work in progress. Okay.
Do I get back to the slideshow?
Yeah. Any
So
questions?
if they make a copy though, and something gets added, it's not gonna go to the copy.
Somehow there's a way to link it that we can find, maybe periodically. We'll have to tease that out because I don't think any updates are happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
So maybe then as that happens, we'll figure out how to navigate that. Yeah.
So if I'm working on retail, but I have a student who's below level, are there like, say, level D books that do retail and level like H books that do retail? Or can I go down to the kindergarten and grab those?
So I think as we start to use it,
I see
I'd like
kindergarten
us-
and first grade. I just searched retail, how many times it came up, and I can see kindergarten books and first grade.
But there's like some at a level D and
Okay, I
some
see
like
what
at
you're
an
saying.
H.
Yeah.
Because we're definitely gonna have different levels, but if I wanna teach the same skill, obviously.
So that's the benefit, right? Is that
Here are some first grade retail.
yeah,
that are
as
listed.
you go
Yeah.
through this,
Yeah.
You'll be able to find skills and strategies in all of these books, right? And when we're talking, remember, we're talking about tier one. If I'm teaching cause and effect, if I'm teaching retail, main idea details, regardless of what the level is, I'm still working on that standard, right? Or that skill. Because that's that grade one skill access that everybody gets. It might be a level D, it might be a level K, right? Or
non-K, it's only
K, first grade.
So here we had
Right.
Ds for K and 1 that both talked about retail. I think as you get to use this doc, you'll be able to figure out what's there, what's not, what do we need more of.
Yeah.
So as the doc still has work to go and to grow it, knowing areas that you're looking for would probably be helpful.
Yeah. And at some point, like at Elmwood, we have everything all together. They have one book version. So all the text, regardless of whether originally it was a second grade or a third grade text, it was all together. We put everything together. But here, because you have them stored outside your classrooms, which is a huge benefit, but upstairs, downstairs, mixing books up right now isn't a good idea. But think about what you might want this to look like moving forward if you get comfortable. I think one of the best things about this is the list is all in one place. If I'm sitting on my couch on Sunday afternoon, not saying anybody has to do that, but if I'm sitting on my couch on Sunday afternoon and planning for my week, I can pull this up and I can see what are the books that I'm going to pull for my small group instruction this week. And I can filter through it. And to be clear, right, just because there are skills that are listed here, right, our teachers, please, I think we should give a round of applause to raise your hand if you did, because I can't remember who was split. Raise your hand if you worked on this over the summer, please. Thank you. Because they read a lot of books this summer. A lot of books. And from their perspective, these were the big key ideas. So when they were reading ball games, level D ball games, nonfiction, drawing conclusions and making predictions were the two big ideas that they came out of it with that you can focus as a skill. It doesn't mean it's the only ones. There could be others. Okay? So don't not choose a book because it's not on this list. But, we'll flush some of that out. We've talked a lot about it's messy, but I think this is going to make this small group instruction a little bit easier. Any questions? Okay. And if you have any ideas, as we're going through the year, ways that we can continue to refine this document, the use of this document, please share them. Because this is not a document I use, it's a document you use. So we want to make sure that it's exactly what you need it to be. Okay?
Okay.
I just want to hit this, and I should have highlighted it. We want to make sure kids are accessing skills, right? That they're accessing, that they're practicing, and they're focusing more on applying that skill than they are trying to read the words that are in the text. But the most important thing is about practice of the skill. There are ways that we can scaffold. There are ways that we can support students so they're accessing text closer to grade level. I want us to start to shift our thinking to let's focus on skills and strategies and not so much on a level, right? What's our data telling us? Students need practice with these skills and strategies. Again, we're not getting rid of our baskets. We're not using levels, but we want to become more balanced with the way that we're thinking about choosing our instruction and delivering our instruction and practice. Okay? All right. Next. All right, so you asked for it. What does planning and delivery look like? And so before we model the piece of it, I want you to talk with the people in your group or at your table about what your small group instruction has looked like in the past. And remember, I think I should have put this skill, no, the next one. Here we go. Yep. Be curious, not judgmental. Okay? Because this brings us to a place where all of us have been in small group instruction. So I want you to think about what your small group instruction has looked like over the past 5 to 10 years.
I know, it's a big years. I'm gonna dig back.
Okay? What are the components? What are the things that you've been focusing on in that small group instruction? Okay? What does that look like? Because what we might see today is a little bit different. And when we say be curious, not judgmental, we did the best with what was out there, right? There were practices that have been shared with us that were given to us that these are the best things for kids to develop language skills. And we did it. All of us. I think everybody in this room, including myself. So there's no judgment there, right? We did what we thought was best for kids, right? But when we have more information, we think about how to maintain the good things, right? Because there were some good things. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There were some really good things. But also, we have to think about how to integrate this new knowledge to refine our practice to support kids in the best way. So take a couple minutes to talk about it. Choose somebody at your table to share out the things that you did, and maybe why you thought it was something that was really good, or why you thought it was something that you're looking forward to maybe change. I'm not going to flag you again.
Only a little older than you.
I like this and I agree. Like last year, I think last year was most drastic changes. But I think the business change since I've been moving is nice and come back to read the lesson. I'm always like, don't focus on tapping out. Tapping out, like that's like probably the biggest change.
Like those thank yous.
Yeah, no more like, oh.
What is
She changed that. Because this is so integrated. Right, mine too. Mine too. It's crazy. And it's like you don't have to write shit.
But I started this chapter, and that's when I focused.
Yeah.
Which was I always tell them to go back and check and make sure. I do.
After this comes out.
Because I would almost say like, oh, you said like how did you I'm not. Yeah.
2 more minutes.
The secret book. I was surprised about it. One, the first that I saw these days, and I'm like, what's this?
Because we're actually
So I'm gonna be a kid, and she's gonna model.
Yeah, we're gonna model it over the next couple of weeks.
And that's a big difference. That's a big difference. Yeah. She can use the routine, but he's gonna use the
takes time, right?
Oh, I want those too.
It's different, it's two different things, right? That language side and the language where this falls and where this If you want any of that, happy to run. Okay. All right. Me too.
Okay, ready to go? There was some really powerful conversation happening at this table. Do you guys want to start? All right, so first grade group's going to share out.
Which group? Us?
Yeah.
I think what we said was the biggest change that we made within the last 5 years of small group reading was not doing that, oh, skip the word, read the rest of the sentence, come back. We're just like, no, it's all phonics, like tap it out. Sound, what sounds do you hear? Chunk it, things like that. So I think that's probably the biggest change we said we had made in our small group reading.
Right. What else do we have?
So we talked about guided reading instructions, the teacher-led group, and we said it, obviously depends on skill sets right at the beginning of the year, but many of us have used, the grade level reading books, the color books to start them off, the quotables or the geodes, and we usually focus on the one-to-one correspondence, book etiquette. Then we have them do the reading with us and do something new. Some of us have added our comprehension questions. It might just be a continuing year, draw the character that moves into words. And then we also had a chance to talk about some of what the non-teacher-led centers or groups were.
Yeah.
And that was helpful to hear what our kids are doing in that time. And the dog book did come up for foundation, so that has
That's the
been a nice-
practice workbook, right?
Yes, that has been a nice addition in the last few years.
Yeah, another next.
Well, we were thinking back in the day, because we were there back in.
30 plus years.
But when we first started with BAS was the only thing to throw our instructions. And I remember going to LST and they're saying, "What's your dad?" I'm like, "Well, he's a D. He's just a D." And that was all we had. So last year was really eye-opening with the CBS because we actually had more data to fall back on. And I felt like we were really kind of digging into the root of some of the problems that may be coming to the reading table. And I feel more confident that that's going to be driving my instruction. Yeah.
With that. Thank you.
That was not practiced in advance.
I always felt like ridiculous, like, "Oh, he's a D." Well, and that was like literally all I had.
Yeah.
But now, like we have all these.
And you know what? They're age-appropriate assessments, which I think at our level, sometimes it's so hard because other assessments didn't make sense for our young learners.
And there's so much that our littles don't always.
Right.
Like they're children.
Yeah, I think one of the things Reed said, saying more about the BAS was, we've always had kids, like we had some kids that were reading at 99%, but they had low comprehension, and we stalled them out because they weren't comprehended, or kids that weren't decoding, but they were comprehending, and again, we were stalling them in a certain area, and now really focusing on these two separate skills. These are two different things we're working on in small group reading right now, and how we're separating those out now in that instruction. So.
And I think that what you're going to see today is going to be helpful, but it's important to note, based on information from last year, but also listening to some of the conversations here today, I want to make sure that we're thinking about and recognizing that the small group instruction that we're talking about today with level text and focus on oral language, vocabulary, comprehension skills and strategies. That's one piece of the picture, right? When we visualize Scarborough's rope, and we see that there are two separate sections of the rope, right? There's that section where we're really focusing on language comprehension. And I say language comprehension because that's oral language, vocabulary, background knowledge, skills, strategies, things like that, right? How we understand text. And then we have the other side of the rope, right? That's the decoding section, word recognition, where we're thinking about phonemic awareness and phonics and fluency. So I think that there was some confusion, and I apologize for that, in terms of, I think that people felt like some of these routines and things that we did last year to shift that side of the rope impacted this side. So we're going to do work this year to make sure that we're looking at both of those things in a separate lens, but then in a similar lens, right? Because you can't get to that reading comprehension side if you don't have the skills to decode, right? And read fluently. Okay. What time is it? 11. Okay. All right, so the first thing I want to think about is the planning piece of it, okay? Yep, we're doing it. We're actually doing it, yep. So when you're planning for this, right, I'm going to give you copies of this too, and I'm going to share the electronic copy. Cheri gets it today.
Talk about being here for a long time.
So I'm planning with my group, right? And the text I chose is, for fast reference, it's a level C. For Lexile range, it's 75 to 125. Okay? In this group today are my friends Lauren, Lori, Mariah, and Ninu. And my date is, 8/26. My granddaughter turned 5 today. She's going to kick out Thursday. Just made it, huh? Yeah. Thank goodness. Yeah.
Oh, she's turning 6 or 5.
5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The title, I love recess. And my target skill, right? So when I'm delivering my mini lesson is going to be about main idea and detail, right? As I'm reading my interactive read aloud, I'm modeling main idea and detail. Now my students are practicing. What?
Main idea.
What? Main idea and detail. Thank you. So here's my target skill, main idea and detail. Okay. Now, there's going to be some challenging words in here to read, right? So I'm gonna go through, and it might look a little different, right? Depending on my students. This is where my cognitive planning comes in. And remember we talked about this a little bit last year. Cognitive planning is making deliberate choices based on what you know about your students, right? So one group, when I'm going through this book,
Tricycle.
What's the word?
Tricycle.
One more time.
Tricycle.
Excellent job. A tricycle is a bike that has 3 wheels. This is my lame drawing of it. And here I have like my little image of it, right? That would be like scaffolding, right? Because I can just tell what it is, but when I show the picture, that's an image that will help students that don't have that language to be able to still understand and access what it is. Okay, so there's going to be some words in this book that are a little hard for you to read. Is that okay that there are words in books we don't understand? Or that we don't know how to read? Is that okay? Absolutely. So we're just gonna go and we're gonna read through these words. I'm gonna say it first, and then you're gonna repeat the word 3 times, okay? My turn. The word is recess. What's the word?
Recess.
Again?
Recess.
One more time.
Recess.
The word is during. What's the word?
During.
Again?
During. During.
Down.
Down. Down. Down.
Around.
Around. Around. Around.
Climb.
Climb. Climb. Climb.
Monkey.
Monkey. Monkey. Monkey.
Squares.
Squares. Squares. Squares.
Okay. Now, I had them repeat those words 3 times, right? Remember last year, I was on hit the repeat button. 7 to 10 correct practices is the average to learn something new. We want the students to take these words and apply them in this book right now. So by giving 3 opportunities for them to read this word that quickly, it's going to increase the likelihood they'll read the word correctly when they get into the text. Won't guarantee it, but it'll increase the likelihood, right? Okay, open the book. And I'm gonna read. I want you to follow along on page 2. I love recess. During recess, I can go fast down the slide. Go to the next page. During recess, I can swing high and I can swing low. Everybody tell me together, what are these 2 pages about?
Recess.
You do a recess.
Things you do at recess. Great job. Okay, now I want you to whisper read. I have my marker. I want you to whisper read pages 4 and 5. I want you to use your 2-foot voice so that when I'm leaning in, I can hear you. Okay? And I want you to be thinking about recess.
Right. Turn. Wish. Turn around on a big tricycle. During recess, I can come after the ball.
Okay. Talk to me. Oh, sorry. Excellent job. Tell me something you learned about recess on these 2 pages.
You ride a tricycle. The kid looks happy.
How can you tell he looks happy?
She's smiling.
He's smiling. Anything else?
He's running.
What's he running?
He's running.
He's running. So we've learned that he's happy at recess, that he can ride a tricycle and run. Fantastic. turn to the next 2 pages. I want you to read these next 2 pages, and I want you to think about other things you can do at recess. Make sure you're using your whisper voice so I can hear you.
At recess, I can.
Hold on 1 sec. Can we go back and look at this word? Tell me, is this word at?
No,
How do you know it's not at?
because it begins with a D.
Excellent job. This word is during. Repeat. What's this
During,
word?
during,
One more time.
during,
Nice job.
during recess, I can climb the monkey bars.
Great job. I can climb through. Say this word again.
Through the monkey bars.
Great job. Can you go back and read that full sentence?
During recess, I can climb through the monkey bars.
Nice job. Thank you. Okay. This word. Read that word for me. Hop. And this word is scotch. Say scotch. Now let's blend it together. Hop. Scotch. Word. Nice job. Okay. I know it was hard to hear, but I'm gonna talk about some notes up here. And we're going to continue that through the book. There's really only one more page, but I know that we're running out of time, and I want to be mindful of that. So I'm just putting down these notes quick so I remember. So as I was listening to Lori, and it's one of those skills that, right, you have to kind of like, and maybe it's just because I have ADHD, but I have to like be able to block out what other people are doing so I can focus on what's happening with the person I'm listening to, because I'm thinking about what her skills are. Is she struggling with decoding? Is she reading it okay? Is she reading it fluently? So Lori did a great job because she came to the word around, and she started the word over again a couple times. She was trying to figure out what that word was. And then finally she was like, around. So I'm going to note that she, you know, she really focused on it. She really worked through it to make sure that she read that correctly. When I was listening to Lauren, she misread the word during. So I stopped her where she was and I said, let's go back to the beginning. Let's look at this word, because she said the word was at. I said, is this the word at? No. How come it's not the word at? Because it doesn't start with an A, right? And of course, like, it was one of the words that was on this list. And the word during is not really a word that we're going to try and sound out in the middle of small group. So I said, this word is during. Repeat this word again. She repeated it a couple times. Then she went back and she continued to read the sentence, right? She kept going, and I said, all right, let's loop back and reread the sentence. But I'm taking these notes so that I can keep track of these behaviors. They don't have to be full sentences. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just noticing these kinds of behaviors helps you remember. We do an awful lot in one day. And to try and think that we're going to be able to go back and replicate these notes later that's a hard task to do. So if you can figure out a good way just to keep, notes of these things, it's important. Yep.
Question.
Sure.
This is great, very helpful. I'm wondering about like K, giving out the books right away? Is it okay? Are you opposed to withholding the books for a bit to talk about the new vocabulary just because of, depending on the class you have, you know,
Yep.
the book could be a distraction?
Yep. Yes. Yeah. If you know those kids in front of you they're going to be reading the book while you're doing the other piece of it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
But something I'm not sure if you heard, Cheri pointed us to the print, not, I'm going to say within the last 10 years, something that shifted. We're not going to the pictures to figure out clues. We're looking at the print. Someone up here had a hard time reading hopscotch.
Oh, yeah.
You could have pointed to the picture and said, what's that? That would have been what we did years ago. Now, Cheri looked at the first part of the word, knowing it was a CVC, that the person could read hop. They did, and she told them the rest is scotch. That word is hopscotch. So you're not having somebody struggle through the whole word, but you're cueing them into the letters and sounds that they know to help them use those strategies when teaching to read, not rely on pictures, which was something we did the best that we were taught to do years ago. And that's something that we used to do a lot of. So that is the shift. We're directing to the print.
And I'll say it again. I'm sorry. I just want to say, I'll say it again. I was doing the same exact thing. Look at the picture, right? Like I was doing the same thing until I started to learn about the science of reading and all of these bodies of research that are out there now. We've got to focus on the print.
To piggyback on that, so when you were reading to us, how much do you want people to make sure that the students are one-to-one? Because I know when you flagged doing it, everybody's lockstep pointing. Do you want, because they couldn't see if we were one pointing?
Yes. I mean, we know at this age level, one-to-one correspondence is very important. So yes, you do want to make sure that even when you're reading, that they're recognizing that one-to-one correspondence. Yep.
What about the Cody, SAG, and Wendy?
So remember that that's the foundational skills. When we know that kids need additional practice with that part of it comes outside of those 2 days we're doing this. So this is tier 1, small group instruction focused on language skills. Reading the book, talking about vocabulary, talking about comprehension strategies. For students that need that part of it, we're meeting with them at a separate time to do those. But not to say you can't pull in, like where Ninu was over here. She said, what's that with the word hopscotch? And she blended hop, and then I pointed out scotch, then we blended hopscotch. So we brought that strategy into decoding that word, but those practice routines happen outside of this block. Like maybe tomorrow, during this same time frame, you're not focusing on this, you're doing this. And again, like I'll reshare, there's a visual that we put on the conference room wall last year that for a lot of people, they were like, oh, this makes sense. I will reshare that.
Cheri, what I think I'm hearing you say is this is the baseline for everybody, but then Ninu might need, this might be Monday, Wednesday at 10, and on Tuesday, Thursday, maybe you're working with Ninu on those things at 10.
Okay. And don't worry, if it's something that you're still in your brain going, I can't make sense of this right now, you've got 25 or 20 or 17 little people coming tomorrow or the next day. That's what the most important thing is. We will be continuing to work on this and have conversations. Yep.
It's not contact was very hot.
Yep.
Is there a point at which to follow exactly and use the picture?
I think the way that I've seen our teachers helping students learn English with vocabulary is it's print and pictures, and sometimes it's multiple pictures to represent something. So often when I've seen the small group reading happening, especially in our newcomer classes, one of the groups is vocabulary, and they're sharing multiple needs, sometimes with three-dimensional shapes, sometimes with video, sometimes with pictures, along with the print to help introduce, this is hopscotch, because they don't have necessarily the background knowledge or terminology to identify even what it is.
Before they even get.
The way I've seen it planned, that is sort of a group that it is before they get
Yeah,
to the
but
book.
that
Yes.
group in your vocabulary
Yeah.
over here, you might
Yeah.
have done that there before we get.
Yeah, that's where that cognitive planning piece comes in, right? Where like, I knew this group knew what hopscotch was, but you might be like, oh, I'm not really sure if my students are, I know this student does not have this language. You would, like where I put the tricycle image, rudimentary as it is, like, but you would pull out those pictures and introduce those in this vocabulary section before you even read the book. And then after you have them get through the word, then you can go back into the picture like Lauren said. Remember we talked about hopscotch? It was on the board and here it is in the book. You can go back and make those connections. Yep.
Plan for planning time for teachers to be able to meet.
I think you could choose to use one of the preps to plan together. There's not an additional preparation period.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm going to suggest that we do is tuck the lesson plan format in mailboxes.
Yes.
So people would have that. It is time for us to head to lunch. I anticipate a line that will get bigger. So for those of us that are heading to a big space, maybe we'll plan on starting there at 12:15. Just make sure you get enough time to get your pizza. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Happy day. Have a great day tomorrow.